In a world where toxic people seem to lurk around every corner, whether it's the colleague who undermines you, the family member who brings chaos into your life, or the stranger online who delights in stirring negativity, it can feel like there's no escape. But what if I told you that you don't have to engage with them at their level? What if you could protect your peace, stay grounded, and even find wisdom in their behavior? The ancient philosophy of Stoicism offers us a powerful blueprint to navigate these turbulent relationships. At its core, Stoicism teaches us that we are not victims of our circumstances. Instead, we have control over our responses, emotions, and actions. In this video, we'll explore 13 clever ways to deal with toxic people through the lens of Stoic philosophy. From cultivating emotional detachment to embracing inner peace, we'll dive into how you can safeguard your mental well-being, avoid unnecessary conflict, and live virtuously, regardless of the toxicity around you. If you're ready to transform your approach to difficult people and take back control of your emotional landscape, stay with us. The Stoics have already laid the path. Let's walk it together. Point 1. Toxic people. What defines toxic people and how do they affect us? We've all encountered them. The individuals who seem to drain your energy, provoke your frustration, or chip away at your inner peace. But what exactly makes a person toxic? Is it their behavior? Their words? Or perhaps the way they make us feel when we interact with them? In this segment, we'll examine what defines a toxic person and why their presence can have such a profound impact on our lives. Toxic people are often characterized by their consistent negativity, manipulation, or need to control others. They may project their own insecurities onto us, often criticizing, belittling, or undermining our self-worth. Their words cut deeper than they should, and their actions create a storm of drama in their wake. This behavior can manifest in many forms: a colleague who consistently sabotages your efforts, a friend who only reaches out when they need something, or a family member who refuses to accept boundaries. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminds us that we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can choose how we respond to them. The toxic person, in their essence, represents something beyond their control: their own suffering, their unmet needs, and their inability to see the world clearly. It is important to remember that toxic behavior is often a reflection of their inner turmoil, not a reflection of our value. Despite this understanding, toxic people can still have a profound effect on us. They disrupt our peace, cloud our judgment, and often compel us to respond in ways that betray our higher nature. When we allow their negativity to seep into our own minds, we give them power over us. We allow ourselves to be carried away by their storm, rather than maintaining the calm center of our own being. So what happens when we encounter such individuals? The Stoics would advise us to reflect on the concept of amor fati, the love of fate. This means accepting what comes our way, including the challenges posed by toxic people, with grace and without resentment. Instead of seeing these encounters as a personal attack or something to be avoided, we can view them as opportunities for growth. The question is, how can we maintain our peace in the face of toxicity, and how can we protect ourselves from being consumed by it? The Stoics also remind us of the importance of self-control. When dealing with toxic people, our response is often the only thing we can control. We can't dictate their actions, but we can choose how we react. Will we rise to their provocations, or will we remain steadfast in our pursuit of tranquility? But this brings us to a deeper question. How do we protect our peace without engaging in a battle of wills? How do we remain unaffected by the toxic behavior of others, without falling into indifference or avoidance? To explore this further, let's delve into one of the core Stoic principles, the power of emotional detachment. And on to Stoic principles. How Stoicism teaches us to handle external challenges, especially relationships. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the belief that we are not defined by our external circumstances, but by how we respond to them. This principle becomes particularly relevant when we consider the challenges posed by toxic people in our lives. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control the behavior of others, we can always control our own reactions. By shifting our focus inward and adhering to Stoic principles, we can navigate even the most challenging relationships with composure and wisdom. One of the foundational concepts in Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, which asserts that there are things in life we can control and things we cannot. Our actions, thoughts, and judgments are within our control, but the behavior of others, their opinions, and their actions are not. In a world filled with toxic people, this distinction becomes crucial. Stoicism reminds us that it is futile to try to control how others act, but we can choose how we respond to them. Take Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, for example. Despite leading an empire and facing constant political and personal challenges, he maintained a sense of calm and wisdom by focusing on what was within his control. He did not allow the actions of others, whether betrayals or insults, to disturb his peace. He wrote in his meditations, "If someone does wrong, it is not for you to judge, but to understand that they are simply acting in accordance with their nature, as you too act in accordance with yours." By understanding that toxic behavior is often a reflection of the person's inner turmoil, we can detach emotionally from their actions and respond with understanding rather than anger. The Stoic practice of mindfulness is another essential tool for handling difficult relationships. When we encounter toxic people, it is easy to be swept away by our emotions, anger, frustration, or even sadness. Stoicism, however, teaches us to pause and observe these emotions without judgment. We can ask ourselves, why am I feeling this way? What is truly within my control in this situation? This act of mindful reflection allows us to create space between the event and our response, giving us the opportunity to choose a more measured Stoic reaction. One of the most profound teachings of Stoicism comes from Epictetus, who said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When dealing with toxic people, this principle encourages us to focus on our own character and not allow the negativity of others to shape our behavior. Instead of retaliating or being drawn into their chaos, we can maintain our virtue, acting with wisdom, courage, and justice. We do not have to mirror the toxic behavior we encounter. Rather, we have the power to rise above it. This is where the Stoic concept of apatheia, or emotional tranquility, comes into play. Apatheia is not indifference, but rather a state of emotional freedom that comes from understanding the nature of things and accepting them, without letting them disturb our inner peace. In the face of toxic people, apatheia helps us avoid becoming emotionally entangled with their negativity. By practicing emotional detachment, we preserve our sense of tranquility and remain true to our values, regardless of the chaos that may unfold around us. So how do we apply these Stoic principles when dealing with toxic people? The answer lies in focusing on what we can control: our thoughts, our actions, and our responses. We can choose to engage with empathy, not to react impulsively, and to remain anchored in our values. This approach not only protects our inner peace but also allows us to maintain healthier, more balanced relationships. But maintaining composure in the face of toxic people is not always easy. In fact, it can feel like a constant battle. That's why the next principle is so vital: embracing the power of emotional detachment, which allows us to respond wisely without being consumed by the negative energy of others. So 3. Emotional detachment, the power of emotional control in dealing with negativity. Imagine walking through a crowded room filled with people arguing, gossiping, and complaining. You feel the tension in the air, the negative energy swirling around you. But then, instead of becoming entangled in the drama, you calmly observe the situation from a distance, unaffected by the chaos around you. This ability to detach yourself from the emotional storm is a core tenet of Stoic philosophy. It's not about being indifferent or cold. It's about mastering your own emotions and choosing not to be controlled by the negativity of others. Emotional detachment is the practice of separating your inner state from external events. It doesn't mean you don't feel emotions. Rather, it means you don't let your emotions dictate your actions. In a world full of toxic people, those who try to provoke, manipulate, or drain your energy, emotional detachment is one of the most powerful tools in maintaining your peace of mind. The Stoics understood that our emotions often arise from how we perceive events, not from the events themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When we encounter negativity or toxic behavior, it's easy to react emotionally, letting our anger, frustration, or hurt overwhelm us. But Stoicism teaches us that our response is within our control. By practicing emotional detachment, we prevent our emotions from being hijacked by external influences. One of the key practices for cultivating emotional detachment is mindfulness, being fully present and aware of your emotional reactions without judgment. When faced with a toxic person, pause and ask yourself, Why am I reacting this way? What is within my control here? This simple act of reflection helps create the space necessary to choose a measured, Stoic response. Instead of reacting impulsively, you can respond with wisdom and calm. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, often emphasized the importance of emotional control. He wrote, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgment about things." When dealing with toxic people, the key is not to let their behavior dictate how you feel. For example, if someone insults you or spreads rumors, the Stoic approach is to remind yourself that the insult is not a reflection of your worth, but rather a reflection of their own character. By distancing yourself from their judgment, you maintain control over your emotions. This emotional detachment is rooted in the Stoic practice of eudaimonia, the idea that true happiness comes from living in accordance with virtue, not external validation. In the face of negativity, if you remain steadfast in your pursuit of virtue, acting with wisdom, courage, and justice, you will find peace, regardless of how others behave. The toxic person's actions are not your responsibility. Your emotional response to them is. However, emotional detachment does not mean you become apathetic or disengaged. On the contrary, it allows you to act with clarity and intention, rather than being swept away by reactive emotions. When you detach emotionally from a toxic person, you regain the power to decide whether to engage with them, distance yourself, or set clear boundaries. This clarity allows you to protect your peace while still acting in alignment with your values. The power of emotional detachment extends beyond just interactions with toxic people. It influences how we approach challenges in all areas of life. When we detach from the immediate emotional reaction, we are free to think more rationally, make wiser decisions, and respond with greater integrity. But as we move forward, it's essential to understand that emotional detachment does not mean passivity. To truly protect ourselves from toxicity, we need to establish firm boundaries, which will be the focus of our next principle, setting healthy boundaries without fear or guilt. No. 4. Focus on what you can control. Understanding what is within your power in any relationship. In life, we encounter countless situations that feel beyond our control. Unexpected conflicts, misunderstandings, and challenging personalities. When faced with toxic people, it's easy to feel powerless, as though we're caught in a whirlwind of negativity with no way out. But the Stoics offer us a powerful antidote to this feeling of helplessness, the concept of focusing on what is within our control. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that while we cannot control the actions of others, we have full authority over how we respond to them. He said we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. This is the essence of Stoic resilience, recognizing that we are the architects of our own peace. When it comes to relationships, this means understanding that we cannot control the behavior, opinions, or reactions of others, but we can control how we engage with them, how we set boundaries, and how we maintain our integrity. In any relationship, whether with a toxic colleague, a difficult family member, or a friend who consistently drains your energy, the key question is, what is within my power here? The answer, in Stoic terms, lies in our thoughts, our actions, and our attitudes. We cannot force others to change, but we can choose how we respond to them. This distinction helps us shift our focus from external chaos to internal clarity. Take, for instance, the example of a toxic colleague who constantly undermines your work or spreads negativity. You can't control their behavior, but you can control your response. Will you engage in their drama? Will you allow their actions to affect your peace of mind? Or will you choose to maintain your composure, stay focused on your own work, and not let their negativity define your day? The Stoics emphasize that our inner peace is a direct result of where we direct our attention. If we focus on things we cannot control, the words or actions of toxic people, we give away our power. But if we focus on what is within our control, our thoughts, our responses, and our capacity for virtue, we retain that power and preserve our peace. This principle also helps us understand the difference between what is up to us and what is not up to us. In any relationship, we must ask ourselves, is this something I can influence? If the answer is no, then we must practice acceptance. We must acknowledge that we cannot change the other person, but we can control our emotional reaction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. When faced with toxicity, we are presented with an opportunity to practice the Stoic virtues of patience, tolerance, and wisdom. By focusing on our own responses, we can transform adversity into an opportunity for personal growth. Moreover, focusing on what we can control does not mean we passively accept mistreatment or allow toxic people to walk all over us. Rather, it empowers us to set clear boundaries and act in alignment with our values. If someone behaves in a way that is harmful or disrespectful, we have the power to distance ourselves, speak up, or take whatever action is necessary to protect our peace, all without losing our composure or engaging in unnecessary conflict. This focus on control also serves as a reminder that we are not helpless in the face of toxicity. While we cannot change others, we can change ourselves. We can choose how we respond, how we protect our energy, and how we cultivate inner peace. In this way, we maintain our autonomy, even in the most challenging relationships. As we move forward, it's crucial to recognize that maintaining peace in toxic relationships requires more than just managing our responses. It requires actively creating the space for peace to thrive. And that's where the next principle comes in. Setting boundaries, an essential tool for protecting our well-being without conflict or guilt. We're using rationality to respond. How Stoics approach difficult situations with logic and calmness. When faced with the emotional turbulence of a difficult relationship or the provocation of a toxic person, our natural instinct is often to react emotionally. Anger, frustration, hurt. These emotions are immediate, visceral, and deeply felt. Yet the Stoic approach encourages us to pause, step back, and respond not with emotion, but with reason. By cultivating rationality, we can maintain calmness in the face of adversity and make decisions grounded in logic rather than reaction. The Stoic philosopher Seneca said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." In the heat of the moment, when someone insults us or behaves toxically, the urge to react impulsively can be overwhelming. However, the Stoics remind us that our true power lies in our ability to control that initial impulse. By taking a moment to breathe, reflect, and view the situation through a rational lens, we regain control of our responses and avoid making decisions we might regret. Rationality, in Stoic terms, is not simply about logical thinking. It's about aligning our responses with nature, virtue, and wisdom. When a toxic person challenges us, the Stoic approach involves stepping back and asking, what is the rational way to handle this? What is the most virtuous response in this situation? Instead of immediately retaliating or becoming defensive, we can choose to act in a way that reflects our best self, grounded in calm reasoning. Take, for example, the advice of Epictetus, who taught that the key to handling difficult situations is understanding the difference between what we can control and what we cannot. If someone insults us, we can't control their words, but we can control how we interpret them. The Stoic response is to recognize that the insult is not a reflection of our worth, but rather of the other person's character. By rationally assessing the situation, we can avoid taking offense or internalizing their negativity. In any challenging interaction, the first step in responding with rationality is to detach ourselves from the emotional reaction. When we feel anger or frustration rising, we must remind ourselves that emotions, while natural, can cloud our judgment and lead to actions we might regret. By separating ourselves from the immediate emotional reaction, we open space for a more measured, thoughtful response. This practice of emotional detachment is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, and when paired with rationality, it allows us to navigate difficult relationships with poise and clarity. But rationality isn't just about maintaining composure. It's also about making informed, virtuous decisions. For the Stoics, virtue is the highest good, and every action should be aligned with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. When faced with toxic behavior, the rational Stoic response might involve setting boundaries, speaking with clarity and firmness, or even choosing to walk away from the situation altogether. Each of these decisions, when made rationally, allows us to protect our peace and maintain our integrity without descending into the chaos of emotional reactivity. Moreover, rationality allows us to view challenging relationships from a broader perspective. We are not defined by the toxic people around us, nor are we responsible for their actions. Instead, we are responsible for our own actions and responses. By practicing rationality, we can distance ourselves from the drama and focus on what truly matters, our own growth, peace, and virtue. in the midst of negativity. The Stoic approach invites us to rise above our immediate impulses, to reflect before we react, and to make decisions that are grounded in reason rather than emotional turbulence. This approach not only protects our inner peace but also allows us to engage with others in a more constructive, empathetic way. As we continue to explore how to navigate toxic relationships, it's important to remember that Stoicism does not ask us to passively accept mistreatment. Instead, it teaches us how to respond with strength, dignity, and wisdom. The next principle we'll delve into is one of the most empowering: the importance of setting firm boundaries, which is a crucial part of maintaining our peace while still acting with compassion and integrity. Setting boundaries. The Stoic way of protecting your peace without conflict. In any relationship, whether it's with a toxic colleague, a manipulative friend, or a demanding family member, setting boundaries is essential for maintaining your emotional well-being. But how can we set boundaries in a way that aligns with Stoic philosophy without creating unnecessary conflict or causing harm? Stoicism teaches us that boundaries are not just about saying no to others, but also about saying yes to our own peace, dignity, and virtue. The Stoic approach to boundaries is rooted in the understanding that we are responsible for our own emotional state. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." When faced with toxic behavior, it is not the other person's actions that disturb us, but our own interpretation of those actions. By setting clear, intentional boundaries, we ensure that we don't let the chaos of others disrupt our inner peace. But boundaries in the Stoic sense are not about confrontation or force. They are not about controlling others. They are about protecting ourselves from being swept up in their negativity. Boundaries are a reflection of our own values and a way of maintaining our virtue. When we set boundaries, we are asserting our right to maintain our emotional equilibrium and to choose relationships that nourish our well-being rather than drain it. One of the core principles of Stoicism is recognizing the difference between what we can control and what we cannot. We cannot control the behavior of toxic people, but we can control how we interact with them. This is where boundaries come in. Setting a boundary is an act of self-respect. It's saying, "I will not allow you to treat me in a way that violates my sense of peace and integrity." It's a conscious choice to protect your energy, not by attacking or rejecting the other person, but by calmly asserting your needs and limits. Epictetus, in his Discourses, teaches that we should always be mindful of how we let others affect us. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When we allow toxic people to overstep our boundaries, we lose mastery over our own lives. Setting boundaries is an act of reclaiming that autonomy. It's about recognizing that you are the guardian of your own emotional state, and it is your responsibility to protect it. The Stoic practice of setting boundaries also helps us avoid the trap of excessive attachment to the opinions or behaviors of others. When we are overly concerned with what others think or how they behave, we become vulnerable to their whims. But when we set clear boundaries, whether that means limiting contact, speaking assertively, or even walking away from a relationship entirely, we reinforce our own sense of self-sufficiency. We remind ourselves that we are not dependent on others for our happiness or peace. Importantly, Stoic boundaries are not about rigidity or isolation. They are about wisdom and flexibility. It is not about building walls, but rather about drawing a line that reflects our values. If a relationship, no matter how close, is consistently damaging to our peace, the Stoic way is to detach, but with understanding, compassion, and clarity. Setting a boundary doesn't mean we abandon the person. It means we protect our inner calm and our sense of virtue, which ultimately enables us to engage more fully with others in a healthier, more balanced way. Furthermore, boundaries allow us to choose where we invest our energy. The Stoics teach us that time is precious and we must spend it wisely. By setting boundaries with toxic individuals, we free ourselves to devote our time and energy to relationships that are uplifting, meaningful, and aligned with our values. In doing so, we create space for the things that truly matter: growth, virtue, and tranquility. Setting Stoic boundaries isn't always easy, especially when we fear confrontation or disappointing others. But it's important to remember that boundaries are not about being harsh or unkind. They're about respecting ourselves and our emotional needs. When we set boundaries with compassion and clarity, we show others that we value ourselves and by extension, we show them how to respect us. As we continue to explore how Stoicism guides us in dealing with toxic people, it's clear that setting boundaries is essential, not only for protecting our peace, but also for fostering healthier, more harmonious relationships. But what happens when boundaries are tested, or when we face situations where walking away is the best option? The next principle we'll explore is the power of acceptance, learning to let go of toxic relationships when they no longer serve our growth or well-being. Embracing inner peace. How focusing on inner tranquility can prevent toxic people from disturbing your peace. Imagine a calm, serene lake, its surface smooth and undisturbed, reflecting the world around it in perfect stillness. Now imagine a stone being thrown into that lake. The stone creates ripples, but eventually, the water returns to its original state, undisturbed by the fleeting disturbance. In many ways, this is how Stoicism teaches us to approach the chaos of toxic people and negative situations. By focusing on cultivating our inner peace, we become like that serene lake, able to face external turbulence without being thrown off course. The Stoic ideal is to develop an inner tranquility that no external event or person can disturb. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most renowned Stoic philosophers, constantly reminds us in his Meditations that we are the masters of our own inner world. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This recognition that we control our internal state, regardless of what happens around us, is the foundation of Stoic peace. When we focus on cultivating inner peace, we remove ourselves from the drama and negativity of the world. Toxic people may try to provoke us, manipulate us, or bring us down. But by strengthening our inner tranquility, we create a buffer that shields us from their influence. This doesn't mean we avoid difficult people or situations. It means that we respond to them from a place of calm, rather than reacting emotionally. The Stoics teach us that emotions like anger, resentment, or frustration arise when we allow external events or people to determine our inner state. But when we focus on what is within our control, our thoughts, our responses, and our actions, we can remain anchored in peace, no matter the storm around us. This is why focusing on inner peace is such a powerful antidote to the toxicity of others. When we take responsibility for our own emotional state, we no longer give toxic people the power to disturb our tranquility. One of the ways we can cultivate this inner peace is through the practice of mindfulness. By regularly pausing to reflect on our thoughts and emotions, we create a space between stimulus and response. In this space, we can choose how we react, rather than allowing our emotions to control us. For example, when confronted with a toxic person who tries to provoke us, we can take a moment to breathe, center ourselves, and remind ourselves that we do not need to be drawn into their negativity. This practice of mindfulness helps us stay grounded in our values and priorities, no matter what external challenges we face. Another key Stoic practice for embracing inner peace is amor fati, the love of fate. This Stoic concept teaches us to embrace whatever happens in life, even difficult or uncomfortable situations, as an opportunity for growth and learning. When we approach life with this mindset, we stop viewing toxic people as obstacles to our peace and instead see them as opportunities to practice patience, resilience, and compassion. By accepting that toxic people are part of the world, we free ourselves from the frustration of resisting or fighting against them. Instead, we focus on maintaining our peace regardless of their behavior. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, often emphasized the importance of understanding that we are not disturbed by the events themselves, but by our judgment of those events. If we view a toxic person as a personal affront to our well-being, we give them power over our emotional state. But if we see them as an opportunity to practice Stoic virtues, such as patience, tolerance, or emotional detachment, we regain our power. By changing our perception, we prevent them from disturbing our peace and can remain calm in the face of their negativity. Ultimately, embracing inner peace is about taking full responsibility for our emotional life. It's about recognizing that no one, not even the most toxic person, can disturb our peace unless we allow it. By cultivating a deep sense of tranquility, we create an inner fortress that shields us from the negative influences of the outside world. This inner peace becomes a source of strength, allowing us to navigate toxic relationships with wisdom, clarity, and grace. As we continue to explore how Stoicism helps us navigate the complexities of relationships. It's important to understand that embracing inner peace doesn't mean passivity or avoidance. It means choosing to protect our peace and to engage with the world from a place of grounded, centered calm. The next principle we'll delve into is the power of acceptance, learning to let go of toxic relationships that no longer serve our growth or peace. Note K, virtue in the toxic person, applying the Stoic virtues of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. When dealing with toxic people, it can be easy to react impulsively, responding to their negativity with anger, frustration, or defensiveness. Yet the Stoics teach us that the key to navigating difficult relationships is not in how we react to others, but in how we embody the virtues that guide our actions. By applying the Stoic virtues of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, we can transform even the most toxic interactions into opportunities for growth and self-mastery. Wisdom, understanding the situation with clarity. The first virtue, wisdom, teaches us to approach every situation with a clear and rational mind. In the context of dealing with toxic people, wisdom helps us discern what is truly at stake in the relationship and how we should respond. Often, toxic people seek to provoke us, to get a rise out of us, or to manipulate our emotions. Wisdom allows us to see beyond their actions, recognizing that their behavior is a reflection of their own struggles, not of our worth. A wise response does not involve getting caught up in the emotional drama or taking their behavior personally. Instead, it means maintaining perspective, recognizing that we cannot control others, but we can control how we engage with them. For instance, if someone criticizes us unfairly, wisdom teaches us to consider the validity of their critique, but also to acknowledge that their opinion does not define us. Wisdom empowers us to choose not to internalize their negativity. Wisdom also enables us to know when to disengage from toxic people. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus advised, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Wisdom guides us to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively, choosing actions that preserve our peace and integrity. Justice, acting with fairness and integrity. The second virtue, justice, calls us to act in accordance with what is right and fair. In our relationships, justice means recognizing that everyone deserves to be treated with respect and dignity, regardless of their behavior. However, justice also demands that we set boundaries with toxic individuals who violate our sense of self-respect. When dealing with a toxic person, justice compels us to act with fairness, not by retaliating or seeking revenge, but by ensuring that we maintain our own moral integrity. If someone behaves unjustly toward us, we have the right to stand up for ourselves and protect our peace. Justice also means extending compassion and understanding to others, even when their actions hurt us. However, this does not mean tolerating toxic behavior indefinitely. Justice requires us to recognize when a relationship becomes harmful and to take appropriate steps to protect our well-being. By practicing justice, we cultivate a sense of fairness in our interactions, making decisions that reflect our values, rather than reacting to the provocation of others. Justice, in this sense, isn't just about being right. It's about maintaining our commitment to virtue, even when faced with difficult or unfair circumstances. Courage, standing firm in the face of adversity. Courage is the third Stoic virtue, and it is indispensable when dealing with toxic people. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite fear or discomfort. In the face of a toxic person's behavior, courage enables us to set boundaries, speak the truth, and confront difficult situations without shrinking back. Whether it's standing up for ourselves in a confrontation, calmly asserting our needs, or walking away from a relationship that no longer serves us, courage empowers us to make the right choices, even when they are difficult. It takes courage to maintain composure when someone tries to provoke us, and it takes courage to leave a relationship that is causing us harm, knowing that doing so is an act of self-respect and personal growth. Courage also allows us to remain grounded in our values, even when faced with external pressure or criticism. In dealing with toxic people, it may be tempting to respond with anger or to retaliate, but courage encourages us to hold firm to our commitment to virtue and to act with integrity, no matter how challenging the situation may be. Temperance, exercising self-control and moderation. The final Stoic virtue, temperance, teaches us to exercise self-control and moderation in all aspects of life, including our interactions with toxic people. In the face of negativity, Temperance helps us avoid overreacting, escalating conflicts, or getting lost in emotional excess. It reminds us that while we may feel anger, frustration, or hurt, we can choose not to let those emotions dictate our actions. Temperance encourages us to remain balanced, no matter the external circumstances. If a toxic person tries to draw us into their drama, temperance allows us to step back and respond thoughtfully, rather than getting swept away by the intensity of the situation. Temperance also involves practicing emotional detachment, not in the sense of shutting off our emotions, but in choosing not to be controlled by them. By exercising temperance, we maintain control over our emotional responses and avoid overindulgence in negative emotions. This self-control not only protects our peace, but also strengthens our ability to make decisions that align with our Stoic values, rather than acting out of impulse or emotion. 9. Acceptance and letting go. Accepting the behavior of others without letting it affect you. One of the core principles of Stoicism is the acceptance of reality as it is. The Stoics teach us that we cannot change the behavior of others. We cannot control the external world, but we can control how we respond to it. When we encounter toxic people, those who try to manipulate, belittle, or disrupt our peace, we are often confronted with a choice: resist and fight their behavior, or accept it and free ourselves from the emotional burden it creates. The Stoic practice of acceptance does not mean resignation or passivity. Rather, it means embracing the reality of the situation without becoming emotionally entangled in it. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs. In other words, accepting the behavior of others, even when it is toxic, is not an endorsement of their actions. It is an acknowledgement that we cannot control them, and therefore, we must focus on what we can control, our own thoughts and reactions. When we practice acceptance, we stop trying to change or fix toxic people. This is liberating because it removes the constant emotional drain of wishing they were different or better. We stop giving away our peace by resisting their behavior or internalizing their negativity. Instead, we allow their actions to be what they are, without attaching our self-worth or emotional state to them. In doing so, we become more resilient, more centered, and less vulnerable to their toxic influence. Take a moment to consider how often we fight against the reality of others' actions. When someone belittles us, for instance, it's easy to feel hurt or defensive, to attempt to argue back or demand that they see things our way. But by resisting, we only prolong the emotional turmoil. Acceptance teaches us to let go of the need to be right, to prove ourselves, or to change others. We recognize that their behavior is a reflection of them, not of us. It is not a reflection of our worth, and we do not need to internalize it. Epictetus, in his discourses, reminds us that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When we accept that we cannot control how others behave, we regain control over our own reactions. We can choose to remain unaffected by their negativity, to remain grounded in our values, and to protect our inner peace. Acceptance is particularly powerful when it comes to toxic people. It allows us to see their behavior as part of the world, not something that is specifically directed at us, but simply a manifestation of their own struggles and limitations. This shift in perspective helps us release the emotional hold that toxic people have over us. We are no longer triggered by their actions, because we understand that their toxicity is not a reflection of our value, but a reflection of their state of mind or emotional turmoil. However, acceptance does not mean allowing toxic behavior to continue unchecked. It is important to recognize when a relationship is no longer serving our well-being, and it may require us to take action, whether that's setting stronger boundaries, limiting contact, or even walking away entirely. Stoicism teaches us to accept what we cannot change, but it also encourages us to act wisely and with purpose. When it comes to protecting our peace and integrity, the Stoic practice of acceptance also involves amor fati, the love of fate. This concept teaches us to embrace everything that happens in life, even the difficult moments, as part of our personal growth. Instead of resisting toxic behavior, we learn to accept it as an opportunity for self-mastery. Each encounter with a toxic person becomes a chance to practice patience, emotional control, and wisdom. Through acceptance, we transform these challenges into opportunities for growth. By letting go of the need to change others or control their behavior, We free ourselves from the emotional chaos that toxic people bring. We reclaim our peace and choose to engage with the world from a place of inner strength and calm. Through acceptance, we let go of the emotional burden and create space for peace, clarity, and self-improvement. As we continue on our Stoic journey, it's clear that acceptance is not just about tolerating difficult people. It's about choosing to release their influence over us and maintaining our focus on what truly matters: our own virtue, growth, and tranquility. The next principle we will explore is the role of perspective, learning how to view toxic situations through the lens of Stoic wisdom so we can respond with clarity and grace. The role of perspective, shifting your mindset to neutralize negativity. Perspective is one of the most powerful tools in the Stoic toolkit. It shapes how we view the world and ultimately dictates how we respond to the events and people that come our way. In the case of toxic people, shifting our perspective can transform our experience from one of frustration and helplessness to one of clarity, peace, and self-mastery. In Stoic philosophy, we are reminded repeatedly that our thoughts are within our control, and our perception of any situation is what gives it meaning. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." The Stoics understand that the external world is full of challenges and difficult people, but it is our internal world, the way we choose to view those challenges, that determines whether they will disturb our peace or serve as opportunities for growth. When faced with toxic people, it's easy to fall into a mindset of victimhood, believing that their negativity is something that is happening to us, or that we are at the mercy of their actions. But this mindset traps us in a cycle of reaction and powerlessness. The Stoics teach us a different way. By changing our perspective, we regain control over how we feel and how we respond. Rather than viewing toxic people as enemies or obstacles, we can choose to see them as teachers, opportunities to practice patience, resilience, and emotional detachment. Take the example of Epictetus, who endured years of enslavement and yet managed to cultivate an extraordinary sense of inner freedom. In his discourses, he wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." For Epictetus, external events were never the cause of distress. It was his thoughts about those events that determined his emotional state. Similarly, when we encounter toxic people, it is not their behavior that dictates our emotional reaction, but the way we choose to perceive and respond to that behavior. One powerful Stoic technique for shifting perspective is to practice reframing. Reframing is the act of viewing a situation from a different angle, so that we can see it in a more positive or neutral light. For example, if a toxic person attempts to provoke us, instead of seeing their behavior as a personal attack, we can reframe the situation by reminding ourselves that their actions are a reflection of their own struggles and limitations, not our worth. In this way, their negativity becomes less about us and more about them. We can also reframe the situation by asking ourselves, what can I learn from this? Instead of seeing toxic people as nuisances or threats, we can view them as opportunities to practice Stoic virtues like temperance, wisdom, and courage. Perhaps their behavior is a test of our emotional control, or a reminder to set stronger boundaries. Each encounter with a toxic person is an opportunity for us to strengthen our inner peace and resilience. Another technique for shifting perspective is to focus on the bigger picture. Stoicism encourages us to zoom out and consider the broader context of our lives. Will this toxic person's behavior matter in a year, 5 years, 10 years? Often the answer is no. By placing the situation in a larger context, we can detach from the immediate emotional impact and view it with greater objectivity. This helps us avoid getting caught in the small dramas that toxic people create and instead focus on what is truly important, our own personal growth, virtue, and well-being. We can also shift our perspective by practicing gratitude. When faced with toxic people, it's easy to focus on the negative aspects of the situation, the frustration, the anger, the hurt, but gratitude allows us to find silver linings even in the most difficult situations. Perhaps their toxic behavior teaches us valuable lessons in patience, self-control, or setting boundaries. Maybe it reveals areas where we can grow stronger, more compassionate, or more resilient. By shifting our focus to gratitude, we neutralize the negativity and reclaim our peace. In a practical sense, shifting our perspective also means not giving toxic people the power to dictate our mood or sense of self-worth. When we view their behavior as external and outside our control, we no longer allow it to invade our internal world. Instead of being upset by their words or actions, we can remain calm, centered, and focused on our own principles and values. This Stoic detachment allows us to protect our inner peace, no matter how others behave. Ultimately, the role of perspective in Stoicism is about choosing how we interpret the world and how we respond to it. By changing our perception of toxic people and situations, we shift from a mindset of victimhood to one of empowerment. We recognize that while we cannot control others, we can control how we react, and that is where our true strength lies. As we continue to explore the Stoic path, we must remember that our external world is often a reflection of our internal world. By shifting our perspective, we create a calm, grounded foundation that allows us to navigate the challenges of life with wisdom and grace. The next principle we will explore is the practice of forgiveness, understanding how letting go of resentment can help us free ourselves from the emotional grip of toxic people. Part 11. Self-care and reflection, how Stoic practices, like journaling and meditation, can help you stay grounded. In the fast-paced, often tumultuous world we navigate today, staying grounded can seem like an impossible task, especially when dealing with toxic people. But Stoicism provides us with powerful tools for self-care and reflection, such as journaling and meditation, which help us maintain emotional balance and clarity, even in the face of external chaos. These practices are not just ways to pass the time. They are essential habits for cultivating inner peace, emotional resilience, and personal growth. At its core, Stoic self-care is about taking deliberate steps to care for the mind and spirit. Much like we would care for the body, it's about pausing regularly to reflect, to regain perspective, and to align our actions with our highest values. This is where the practices of journaling and meditation come into play, tools that allow us to process our experiences, reset our mindset, and stay true to the Stoic path. Journaling, a tool for reflection and clarity. One of the most powerful Stoic practices is journaling, which was famously used by Emperor Marcus Aurelius in his meditations. His journaling wasn't an exercise in writing for others. It was a personal dialogue with himself, a space where he could reflect on his actions, clarify his thoughts, and reaffirm his commitment to virtue. In essence, journaling is a form of self-examination, where we actively engage with our inner world to foster growth. And when it comes to toxic people, journaling can help us process our emotions without letting them take control. After an interaction with a difficult person, it's easy to get caught up in feelings of frustration, anger, or resentment. However, by taking a few moments to write down our thoughts, we create distance between the event and our emotional response. Journaling allows us to pause, reflect, and observe our feelings without judgment. It gives us the space to explore why we felt a certain way and whether that reaction aligns with our Stoic values of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. For example, after an encounter with a toxic person, a Stoic journal entry might begin by writing down the event and then asking critical questions. What emotions did I feel in response to their behavior? Did my reaction align with my values? What would a wise and just response look like in this situation? How can I improve next time? This process of self-reflection helps us regain control over our emotions, turning fleeting reactions into opportunities for self-improvement. Journaling also helps us track our progress. As we reflect on our challenges, we can see how our thinking has evolved over time. We can identify patterns in our responses to toxic people and adjust our actions accordingly. Through consistent journaling, we build a deeper understanding of our internal landscape and develop greater emotional resilience. Meditation, cultivating calmness and emotional control. Meditation, another cornerstone of Stoic practice, complements journaling by helping us calm the mind and cultivate mindfulness. While Stoics didn't practice meditation in the way it's understood in modern contexts, they did engage in forms of mental discipline aimed at achieving tranquility. For example, they practiced mindfulness of their thoughts and emotions, recognizing the importance of being present in the moment and not allowing external events to disturb their inner peace. When it comes to dealing with toxic people, meditation allows us to center ourselves and regain our sense of equanimity. If we've encountered someone whose behavior has disturbed us, meditation can help us create a space between the event and our reaction. It helps us observe our emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them, allowing us to process and release negative feelings before they can take root. One effective Stoic-inspired meditation technique is to focus on the concept of impermanence. When we encounter toxicity, we can remind ourselves that all external circumstances are fleeting. The anger or frustration we feel in response to someone's behavior is temporary, and with time it will pass. By meditating on this idea, we cultivate detachment from the moment, allowing us to stay grounded and not get swept away by fleeting emotions. Additionally, a Stoic meditation might focus on amor fati, the love of fate. In this meditation, we remind ourselves that everything that happens, including interactions with toxic people, is part of the fabric of our lives. Instead of resisting or resenting these encounters, we learn to embrace them as opportunities for growth. This mindset shifts our relationship to the toxicity itself, helping us see it not as a burden, but as a tool for practicing virtue. Combining journaling and meditation for self-care. When used together, journaling and meditation create a powerful synergy. Journaling provides a space for intellectual reflection, helping us gain clarity and insight into our experiences. Meditation, on the other hand, provides a space for emotional regulation, helping us stay calm and centered. Both practices allow us to build resilience against the emotional chaos that toxic people often bring into our lives. Through journaling, we can track our emotional responses and identify areas where we might need to grow. Through meditation, we can develop the emotional control and inner peace necessary to handle challenging situations with grace. Both practices allow us to stay grounded and focused on what truly matters, our own virtue, well-being, and peace of mind. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca wisely said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." By making self-care a daily habit, through practices like journaling and meditation, we take control of our inner lives, ensuring that we are not at the mercy of external circumstances. We become the masters of our emotions, the captains of our own peace. As we continue our Stoic journey, it's essential to remember that our peace is our responsibility. Through daily reflection and mindfulness, we can maintain our inner tranquility, no matter what toxicity we encounter in the world. The next principle we will explore is the importance of community, how surrounding ourselves with supportive and virtuous people can protect us from the influence of toxic individuals. Number 12. Forgiveness versus condemnation. How Stoics view forgiveness and the limits of tolerance. When we encounter toxic people, one of the most difficult decisions we face is how to respond. Should we forgive them, or should we condemn their actions? Should we make space for their flaws and extend compassion, or should we draw a firm line and distance ourselves from them? Stoicism offers a nuanced perspective on forgiveness that challenges the modern tendency to either passively tolerate harmful behavior or actively seek revenge. In the Stoic view, forgiveness is not about excusing wrongdoing, nor is it about condoning toxic behavior. Rather, it's about maintaining our own peace and acting with wisdom, even when faced with those who act unjustly. The Stoic view of forgiveness. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the recognition that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond. In this context, forgiveness is not about letting others off the hook. It is about liberating ourselves from the emotional chains of anger, resentment, and revenge. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." This suggests that forgiveness is not about relinquishing justice, but about refusing to let the wrongs of others disturb our inner peace. For the Stoics, forgiveness is an act of self-mastery. When we forgive, we are choosing not to be controlled by negative emotions. We are choosing not to carry the burden of anger or bitterness. Instead, we recognize that toxic people's behavior is a reflection of their own struggles, fears, and imperfections, not our worth or dignity. By forgiving them, we release the hold their actions have on us, allowing us to move forward without being weighed down by the past. It is important to note that Stoic forgiveness is not about excusing harmful actions. Instead, it is a conscious decision to free ourselves from the emotional grip of resentment. The Stoics understood that others may act unjustly, but their wrongs do not need to define our emotional state. Forgiveness in this sense is not an endorsement of their behavior. It is a refusal to allow their actions to dictate our emotional well-being. Condemnation and the limits of tolerance. While Stoics advocate for forgiveness, they also recognize the limits of tolerance. Stoicism is not about being passive in the face of injustice or toxic behavior. It is not about allowing harmful people to repeatedly violate our boundaries or treat us with disrespect. The Stoics believed in the importance of justice both for others and for ourselves. While we may forgive someone, that does not mean we tolerate or accept their negative behavior indefinitely. The Stoics draw a clear line between forgiveness and condemnation, understanding that while we may forgive someone's actions, we are not obligated to continue to allow them into our lives. We are not required to accept harmful behavior repeatedly. This is where the practice of setting boundaries becomes vital. The Stoic sees forgiveness as a means of preserving their own inner peace, but they also understand that justice requires taking action when necessary. Epictetus, in his discourses, explains that it is our duty to protect ourselves from harm. If someone's actions are repeatedly toxic, it is not un-Stoic to distance ourselves from them. The Stoic response to toxic people is not blind tolerance but wise discernment. We forgive them, understanding their actions reflect their inner turmoil, but we also recognize that our well-being is our responsibility. If their behavior continues to be toxic, we are within our rights to step away or to set firm boundaries. For example, if someone repeatedly insults us or manipulates us, Stoicism would not encourage us to passively tolerate this behavior out of a misplaced sense of charity. Instead, we would forgive the person in our hearts, recognizing that their actions are likely the result of their own emotional turmoil or ignorance. However, we would also take practical steps to protect ourselves, whether that means limiting contact with them or confronting their behavior with clarity and respect. The wisdom of boundaries. In the Stoic view, forgiveness is about recognizing that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond to them. Condemnation, on the other hand, is about acknowledging that certain behaviors are harmful and should not be tolerated. However, this is not a call for revenge or anger. It is a call for wisdom in determining how to protect ourselves without losing our composure. The Stoic concept of temperance, the virtue of moderation, applies here. It means exercising restraint in our responses to toxic people. We neither seek revenge nor passively accept harmful behavior. Instead, we act with wisdom, guided by a sense of justice, and we create boundaries that safeguard our peace. This balance between forgiveness and condemnation is not easy to strike, but it is essential for maintaining our emotional integrity. In a way, forgiveness and condemnation are two sides of the same Stoic coin. Forgiveness frees us from the emotional burden of resentment, while condemnation allows us to protect ourselves from repeated harm. Both require wisdom, discernment, and emotional control. Through this balance, we protect our peace, honor our values, and maintain our integrity in the face of toxic behavior. As we continue on our Stoic journey, we must remember that forgiveness is not an act of weakness, nor is it an endorsement of harmful behavior. It is a tool for preserving our peace and protecting our inner world. In the next principle, we will explore the power of silence, how choosing to speak less and listen more can be a powerful tool in dealing with toxic people and maintaining our tranquility. Number 13, long-term resilience, developing lasting emotional resilience. Through Stoic teachings, in the face of toxic people and external challenges, the ability to remain emotionally resilient is one of the greatest gifts Stoic philosophy offers. Emotional resilience is not a fleeting state. It is a deep, enduring quality that allows us to navigate life's storms with strength, clarity, and composure. Stoicism provides a framework for cultivating this kind of resilience, focusing not on avoiding hardship, but on building the inner fortitude to handle whatever life throws our way. The Stoic foundation of resilience. At its core, Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control the external world, whether that involves toxic people, unfair circumstances, or unforeseen events, we can control how we respond to it. This idea is encapsulated in one of the most famous Stoic principles, the dichotomy of control. The Stoic worldview revolves around the understanding that some things are within our control, while others are not. External events, including the actions of toxic individuals, fall outside of our control. However, our responses, our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions are entirely within our power. This insight is the foundation of emotional resilience. Instead of reacting with frustration, anger, or despair when faced with difficult people or situations, the Stoic learns to detach from the immediate emotional reaction and focus on what can be controlled, our inner state, our judgment, and our actions. By embracing this principle, We build an emotional resilience that is rooted in acceptance, self-mastery, and a clear understanding of our own power, cultivating resilience through daily practice. While Stoic resilience may sound like a lofty ideal, it is actually cultivated through consistent daily practice. The Stoics believe that true resilience isn't built overnight. It's developed through habitual actions and a long-term commitment to personal growth. Every moment presents an opportunity to practice resilience, and the more we consciously choose to respond to challenges with composure and wisdom, the stronger our resilience becomes. One of the most powerful Stoic practices for building emotional resilience is the daily review. This practice involves taking time at the end of each day to reflect on the challenges we faced, the decisions we made, and how well we adhered to our Stoic principles. Did we react with patience when faced with a toxic person? Did we maintain our composure when things didn't go as planned? By reviewing our day with honesty and without judgment, we can identify areas where we responded poorly and areas where we showed strength. This process not only allows us to learn from our experiences, but also reinforces the habit of emotional resilience. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This insight speaks directly to the Stoic belief that hardship is not something to be avoided, but something to be embraced as an opportunity for growth. Every difficult person, every challenging circumstance is an opportunity to practice resilience, patience, and wisdom. By shifting our mindset to see obstacles as stepping stones rather than roadblocks, we begin to cultivate the resilience necessary for lasting emotional strength. The role of reflection and detachment. Another key practice for building long-term resilience is reflection. The Stoics were avid practitioners of self-reflection, regularly taking time to examine their thoughts, feelings, and actions. This practice of reflection allows us to detach from the emotional turbulence that often accompanies challenging situations. By stepping back and observing our emotions without judgment, we gain greater clarity and perspective. We recognize that our emotions are temporary and that we do not need to be governed by them. One Stoic technique for reflection is the practice of negative visualization. This involves imagining worst-case scenarios and mentally preparing for them. While this might seem counterintuitive to building resilience, it actually has a powerful effect on emotional fortitude. By imagining the challenges that might arise, from toxic people to personal setbacks, we mentally prepare ourselves to face them with equanimity when they occur. This practice helps us realize that nothing in life is truly catastrophic. It's simply part of the ebb and flow of existence. The more we mentally prepare for adversity, the less likely we are to be blindsided by it. Epictetus, in his Enchiridion, writes, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them." This perfectly captures the Stoic understanding of resilience. It is not the event that causes distress, but our interpretation of it. Through regular reflection, we learn to reframe our judgments, viewing challenges as opportunities for growth rather than insurmountable obstacles. Embracing adversity as a path to growth. The Stoics understood that life is inherently filled with challenges. To become truly resilient, we must learn to embrace adversity as part of the natural order, not as something to be feared or avoided. This concept, known as amor fati, the love of fate, teaches us to accept all that life brings, both the good and the bad, as necessary for our growth. When we apply this principle to toxic people or difficult situations, we stop viewing them as personal affronts or setbacks. Instead, we view them as necessary elements of our journey, as opportunities to practice virtue and deepen our resilience. The Stoics' response to adversity is one of acceptance and gratitude, recognizing that each challenge provides us with the opportunity to strengthen our character and build emotional resilience. In Letters from a Stoic, Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." This encapsulates the Stoic approach to resilience. Rather than seeking a life free from adversity, we embrace it as the very thing that shapes and refines us. Every challenge, every toxic person, every moment of hardship is an opportunity to practice patience, temperance, and wisdom. The more we confront these challenges with Stoic resilience, the more we cultivate our inner strength and emotional endurance, developing long-term resilience in practice. To develop lasting emotional resilience, the Stoic focuses on cultivating self-awareness, practicing emotional detachment, embracing adversity, and making reflection a regular part of daily life. It is a gradual process built on small, consistent actions that reinforce our capacity for composure and clarity. By shifting our mindset from one of victimhood to one of empowerment, we become less susceptible to the external forces that may seek to disturb our peace. In doing so, we create a strong inner foundation that can weather any storm. As we continue to explore the Stoic path, it's important to remember that emotional resilience is not about avoiding pain or difficulty. It is about responding to it with wisdom and calmness, knowing that we have the strength to endure whatever comes our way. The next principle we will delve into is the importance of personal growth. How focusing on our own development can shield us from the influence of toxic people and circumstances. As we come to the end of our exploration into how Stoicism can help us deal with toxic people, we are reminded that our emotional resilience is within our control. The Stoics teach us that we cannot always control the behavior of others, but we can control how we respond. Through emotional detachment, setting boundaries, and practicing virtues like wisdom, courage, and justice, we can protect our inner peace from the toxicity of the world. Remember, forgiveness is not about excusing bad behavior, but about freeing ourselves from the emotional burden of resentment. By embracing the Stoic principles of focus, perspective, and resilience, we can rise above negativity, cultivate lasting peace, and remain true to our values despite the storms around us. But Stoicism is not just a theory, it's a practice. So take these lessons and start applying them today. When faced with difficult people, pause, reflect, and choose your response. Take a moment to breathe, detach, and act with wisdom and clarity. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who might benefit from these timeless principles. Leave a comment below telling us how you apply Stoic philosophy in your own life. How do you deal with toxic people? And what strategies help you stay grounded? Join us next time as we dive deeper into more Stoic teachings and how you can use them to live a more fulfilled, resilient, and peaceful life. Stay strong, stay wise, and remember, your peace is in your hands.